الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It's your sister Awa Salat joining you guys from Minnesota here in the States. So this year or this time's sisters virtual conference is on consistency in the Quran, and so I'm going to be discussing developing a consistent relationship with the Quran, especially in terms of learning, memorizing, and maintaining the Quran, or building that relationship that you have with the Quran. So we're gonna start here with a hadith narrated by our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, in which she states, إن أحب العمل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي يدوم عليه صاحبه. Meaning, the most beloved action to Allah's Messenger وسلم, is that which a person does continuously and regularly, right? It's something that happens consistently, okay? Now, what can we understand from this hadith? So, subhanAllah, we hear stories from the Salaf of people who used to recite the Quran, once a month. Some Sahaba or some of the Tabi'een that used to recite Quran, once a week or once every 3 days. Some that used to recite a khatma every single day. Some that would, recite. There's a story that I read of, I can't remember if it was a Tabi or not, of an individual who he used to read 4 khatmas in the morning and 4 at night. And in total, every day, he'd finish the Quran essentially 8 times, right? So this is something that's happening on a regular, consistent, continuous, day-to-day basis. Okay? But if we look at the terminology that's in this hadith, what can we extract from this hadith? We hear stories also of, not only with the Quran, but we hear stories of people from the Salaf who would continuously fast. We hear stories of people who would never miss a fast, people who would fast every day, people who would fast continuously Mondays and Thursdays. We hear stories of people who would constantly give sadaqah, right? Abu Bakr, what is he known for? وَلَا سَوْفَ يَرْضَى, right? He's the one who all of his sadaqah, everything that he had, he gave to charity, right? We hear stories of people who constantly are doing dhikr, constantly remembering Allah, people who are on a daily basis, giving da'wah. But it's happening continuously and regularly. It's something that's happening every day. Okay? So, what is the main message of this hadith? If you're going to do a form of worship, how should you do it? Is it going to be like you do it one day and then you just never do it again? You read, you decide, I'm going to start something, and then you just quit? No, this hadith is telling us what? Don't be a quitter. If you're gonna do something, do it every day. Show face and put in the time every single day. Put in the time and you will see the results, right? This is what this hadith is essentially telling us, right? What the Prophet loves? He loves seeing people do something continuously and regularly. Okay? Now, this hadith focuses on what the Prophet saw as beloved. Now, let's look at another hadith. Same narrator, Aisha radiallahu anha. Now, this is the Prophet's words, okay? اكلفوا من العمل ما تطيقون فإن الله عز وجل لا يمل حتى تملوا وإن أحب الأعمال إلى الله عز وجل أدومه وإن قل. Okay? Do as many good deeds as you can. For Allah never gets tired of giving you ajr until you get tired. And the most beloved of deeds to Allah are those that are continuous, even if they are few, right? So sometimes, we might get these thoughts in our head, right? You gave $1 for sadaqah and you're sitting there, let's say every Friday you go to the masjid and you always give $1. It's always that $1 that you give. You might get these thoughts of like, why am I giving $1 when I can give more? Right? Why every Friday am I giving just, a measly dollar? Why not give 10? Why not give 5? Why not, 20, 100? I personally believe that those ideas or those beliefs are from Shaitan, of his way of trying to put us down. And you should always look at things from a positive way, right? Don't ever try to limit what you're doing, the ibadat that you're doing for Allah. Don't try to limit it. Don't tell yourself, or don't let shaitan tell you that what you're doing is too little. What does this hadith tell us? Even if they are few, it's the fact that it's consistent. You're doing it every single day, right? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran? من جاء بالحسنة فله وعشر أمثالها. Anyone who comes with a good deed, what is Allah going to do to that one deed? فله عشر أمثالها. Allah is going to multiply it by 10. So you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, this is little, this $1 is little. You know, that one just, or that one, قل أعوذ برب الناس, those three last surahs that you read after, Maghrib are too small and you should be reading more. Don't get those thoughts, because what is the hadith telling us? Even if they are a few, وَإِنَّ أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ أَدْوَمُهُ وَإِنْ قَلَّ. Even if they are little, right? Don't lose hope. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give you the reward, right? So what is this hadith? What are these two hadiths? What can we take from them? To never lose hope, number one, and to always be consistent, right? That's the main message here, is being consistent. Because every single day when you put it in the work, what happens? This multiplies. Every day it continues to multiply. It's better than not doing anything, honestly. Okay? So now, using what we gain from these two hadiths about consistency, let's move on to defining consistency. And now we're not just looking at just defining consistency in and of itself, but really looking at consistency in terms of our relationships with the Quran. So here are three things that I'd like anyone, or any student of knowledge, or anyone who's starting their Quran journey in the middle, wherever you are, there are three things you really have to sit down and ask yourself. Number one, what is your current situation? Are you a student? Are you a parent? Are you someone who has a career, that's time consuming? Are you someone that has a lot of time? Are you someone who's, taking a year off to focus on the deen? You have to consider your current situation, because that plays a huge role in how we are going to define consistency in terms of our relationship with the Quran. Second thing, how much does your goal mean to you? What does it mean? Let's say your goal is, I want to memorize the Quran by the end of this year, or by the end of 2023. Okay? But what does your goal truly mean to you? What do you hope to do with it? Once you achieve that goal, what do you hope to do? Are you going to teach? Are you, what are you going to do? Not just with Quran, but with anything. Okay? What does achieving any goal of yours mean to you? And what does it mean in the long run? Okay? And then the last question, really important, what are you willing to do to ensure that you reach your intended goal? So not just looking at the end of the tunnel, but looking at, the checkpoints in between. What are you going to do from now until the time that you set for yourself? What are the things that you're going to do every day to be consistent, to make sure that you are reaching your goal? Okay? So I'd say that there are 4 key components with developing consistency with the Quran. Okay? And honestly, I've been thinking about this for a while. What are things that a person needs in order for them to develop a strong relationship with the Quran, right? So, first things first, and we are going to go in depth with each of these. First things first, right off the bat, is intention. You always have to start with a clean intention, a sincere intention. Okay? And the second thing, whatever your goal is, especially when we're talking about consistency with the Quran, what is your goal? Are you going towards a goal? Or are you just memorizing? It's very hard for a human to do something or to learn something without a goal or an end point in mind, right? You gotta tell yourself, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah, number one. Number two, where do I see myself a year from today? Am I going to memorize the whole thing? Am I going to learn just how to read? am I going to memorize a certain portion? That's what you got to ask yourself. Not during, but at the very beginning. Okay? Time. Time, time. Right? One of the 5 things that we're supposed to, you know, make use of 5 things before 5. Time is one of them. Make use of your time before you don't have any. Okay? Set aside time, and we're gonna go in depth with time in a sec here. And then the last thing is commitment. If you're not fully committed, then maybe right now isn't the right time, right? If you're not fully committed in showing up every single day and being consistent every single day, then maybe you need to go back and you need to assess your situation and see if then is a good time for you to start your journey. Okay, so now let's go in depth here, starting with intention. So I'm gonna start with a hadith here. Every time we go in depth with one of these, I want to give either a hadith or a verse to really hone it in and help us really see how this fits in with our ibadat and our deen. So عن أمير المؤمنين أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. Right? So it's narrated by Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar ibn al-Khattab, who said that he heard the Messenger of Allah say that actions are judged by the motive or the intention, which is the niyyah, right? That's internal. So every person is going to get what you intend. Okay? So tips here. If you are going to start your hifz journey, and like this is the first time that you're starting it, set your intention from the very beginning. Now, oftentimes a lot of people start their hifz journey when they're very young. Not a lot of people start, well, there are a lot of people that start later on in life, but if you get to a point where you're able to set an intention and you're aware of setting an intention, do so. Okay? Because for every time that you do this, you are gaining reward. You're gaining ajr for that intention, right? And make sure that you're setting a niyyah khalisa, right? A sincere intention. You are doing this solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've noticed personally, when I was learning Quran, it's different the times when you pick up the kitab and you start reading and you start learning for the sake of trying to get closer to Allah versus when I was younger and I was competing with my peers. It's different. Um, the words feel different. It internally it feels different. You soak up, even if I didn't understand the meaning at the time. You really soak up the words in a way where it's the Quran becomes one with you, and that's something that if you try, like you pick up a kitab and you tell yourself like, oh Allah, open my mind and make me love this and help the Quran become the light of my life, and you start reading, you'll notice how different the words feel, right? And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens your brains in ways that, you and I might not know. So there really is a difference when you set a pure intention, how different your recitation is, how different your connection with the Quran is. So always set that intention, that pure intention at the beginning. And then not only at the beginning, but do it every single time you open up your Mus'haf. Every time you read Quran, start with that intention. Oh Allah, I'm doing this for your sake. Right? Internally tell yourself that you want to reap the maximum benefits and the maximum reward by reciting. Okay? And then, also make dua. Make a lot of dua. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Cry out to your Lord. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for you, right? Memorizing the Quran is no easy task, right? We know that the Quran, when it was being revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, قولا ثقيلا, this is a heavy word, right? It's a serious word. It's the words of our Lord, our Creator, right? So make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the Quran one with you, one that guides you, one that will support you on a day when we're all going to need support, right? That's going to intercede on your behalf, and one that on the day of judgment you are going to be told, اقرأ وارتقي ورتل كما كنت ترتل في الدنيا فإن منزلتك عند آخر آية تقرأها. Read and recite and ascend, right? Because the last verse that you read is going to be your final destination or your final abode in paradise, right? So setting this intention not only helps in this world, but it has benefits in the hereafter as well. Second thing, setting a goal, right? We're going back to that hadith that we did in the beginning. إن أحب العمل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي يدوم عليه صاحبه, right? It's the same action that you do continuously and regularly, right? And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love? We said in the beginning, the action that is done continuously and regularly, حتى وإن قل, even if it's a few, right? So, as a secondary school teacher, I teach middle schoolers. One thing that we do at the beginning of the school year is we create SMART goals, right? And this really helps kids, especially with young teenagers, really visualizing where they see themselves at the end of the year. And it really changes their attitude about how they feel about their education. Because when you work towards a goal versus when you don't, it's completely different, right? There's no motivation, there's nothing keeping you going, there's no fuel, right? When you don't have an end in sight, when you don't have a goal that you're working towards. So make sure that you're setting a specific, measurable, attainable, time bound, and relevant goal. It's called a SMART goal. For those of you that have copies of the Golden Trust, there is a page in the book where you can write your own SMART goal in relation to building that relationship and learning the Quran. If not, there are so many templates online that you can read through and fill out. But really, what it is, it's a smart way of creating a goal, and that's really specific and is something that you can work towards that actually makes sense, right? You're not just making a basis goal of like, I want to memorize the whole entire Quran when you're like, for example, if you're someone who has not mastered how to read or recite the Quran properly, if you say like 3 months from now I want to memorize the Quran completely, is it possible? Most likely not, but right, you want to make it realistic and relevant, right? And you want to make sure that it's something that you can attain. So that's the point of a SMART goal. It really captures the essence of setting a goal, right? And then not only when you set a long-term goal, also set up checkpoints along the way, right? The end of the tunnel might seem far when you're standing at the beginning, but wallahi, when you set checkpoints, like those little lamps in between, those little lights to guide you to the next checkpoint, right? It makes you feel good, first of all. And then second of all, it's gonna keep you going. It keeps the journey alive, right? Set checkpoints. And if you can't set checkpoints, maybe a teacher will set checkpoints for you. Or maybe a group of friends that you're learning the Quran with, you guys all get together and you set up checkpoints to hold yourselves accountable too, right? Which is the biggest thing, right? Setting a goal also comes with accountability and holding yourself accountable, of being a consistent person and showing up every single day, right? Start small and then slowly progress, right? Don't just tell yourself, like, I'm gonna start doing the impossible right now, and then eventually towards the end, it's gonna get really, really easy. Don't do that. It doesn't work, right? Start small and slowly add on to your load, right? Right. When I'm helping the kiddos at Dixie, when I'm teaching them, I always tell them, listen, just start with one ayah right now. Probably all the most you can handle right now is one verse. Sit here and I want you to read that verse 5 times just looking at the mushaf, right? Just don't worry about time, don't worry about anything. I just want you to read it 5 times or 10 times or 20 times. It doesn't matter how long it takes, right? And then slowly, okay, the one ayah, wow, you can learn one ayah and you went from learning one ayah in 5 minutes to learning an ayah in a minute. So now you can slowly build that, right? Instead of doing 3 lines, now you can bump it up to 5. Now I can bump it up to 10. Now 15. That's a whole page. Right? Starting small, you know? Maybe up until the first checkpoint, you're just doing small. itty bitty amounts. If you're someone who has not finished the Quran, who's in the process of learning it, let's say maybe you're learning 5 lines at a time, and that's all you can do every day, keeping it slow and consecutive, right? Every single day, you're putting in the 5 lines, you're reviewing 5 lines, reviewing 5 lines, reviewing every 3 days. What if you do 5 lines every single day? What is that? You finish a page in 3 days. You could do 2 pages a week. Okay, in 10 weeks, you finish the juz, right? That's 20 pages, which is good, right? But you just gotta be consistent, right? You're gonna see the results. You just gotta be consistent, right? Being consistent, right, is like, I really love how consistency is a huge piece in, learning the Quran and just learning the deen in general. You have to put in every single day in order to see results. You gotta be there every single day. You gotta put in the time every single day. So here are some resources that I have embedded in here, right? So I'm gonna the sisters at Journey to Al Quran are going to have these resources for anyone who would like them. There's a weekly Ashr log. Ashr, for those of you who might not know, is the amount of Quran that you're learning for that given time. Ashr is usually the stuff that you haven't learned, or like the new revision, or the new piece that you're learning. Dereres is like old revision. It's like the stuff that you passed, the Quran that you passed that you're going to be reviewing. Okay, so there's some facts or tips at the top of that. Right, make sure you include the date, and then Monday, where do you start, where do you finish? Tuesday, where do you start, where do you finish? Um, Honestly, this variation I use with my students, but honestly, if you have a notebook and you'd like to design it any way you wish, which is just a log, like a weekly log, this works for my students because uh, they're at home Monday to Thursday and they come to class Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But honestly, you could design this or make any variation of it that works for you, right? This is with new Quran that you're learning. This is with revision, or in general, honestly, during Ramadan, when people are establishing their word of, like, let's say at the start of Ramadan, you set the goal, by the end of Ramadan I want to have read every single juz from the Mus'haf at least once, right? So day one of Ramadan, you started from, let's say for example, you started from Birabb Nas and you took all the way to Amma. And then day two, you started from Wal Mursalat and you took all the way to Tabarak, and so on and so forth. And you read it just every single day like that, and you finish the Quran, right? That's what's called a khatma, and a word is just the amount of Quran that you read consistently every single day. And it's actually of advice from the Salaf and of our current scholars that every person should have a daily word, which is a portion of the Quran that you read every single day from the Mus'haf or from memory, or that you honestly, even if you can't read, that you just, you take your finger and you just trace under the words, and you try, and you try to develop that relationship with the Quran. And if you can't do that much, then looking at the tafsir, right? Or looking at the English translation of it and reading a portion of it. Um Other resources, here is just a Quran memorization tracker. So there are 20 of these, one for every page. Usually every just has about roughly 20 pages. So you just color it in, and this is something that people can copy in like a notebook that they have for specifically only for Quran and learning and memorizing the Quran. And you just shade this in, right? And you can also, like, at the end of every goal, let's say you have a checkpoint at the end of just one, and you'd write whatever just one is for you, or whatever, wherever you're starting from. You could set like a reward here, or you could say, like, what am I gonna do to celebrate this? Okay, well, you finished it, just maybe you might, donate $20 towards sadaqah, or you and your friends that you're studying with, you guys might go out and, I don't know, celebrate, or you might test each other, or you might have a competition, or just something to signal the end of this um, reaching this checkpoint before you move on to the next one, right? And really, what's really important here, and with the daily and khatma schedule, is time, right? Time is of the essence. So always, 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 always strive to make the Quran a part of your day, some way, somehow, right? Um, I remember one time when I was younger, Amalin had asked me, aside from Duxi hours, when do you guys read Quran? And this is when we were clocking in like 14, 15 hours at Duxi, right? During competition time. And I remember telling him, I do read the Quran at home. And then I was just trying to be smart. But he was like, when? He was like shocked. And I was like, well, it's not like I read Torah and Injil in my Salah. Of course, I read Quran in Salah. And that was just like a funny little um, joke that went on for, a couple weeks. But that is true. I mean, people don't consider the Quran that we read in Salah. Also, you could have a word in your Salah as well. But when it comes to time, set aside a specific time each day to review, learn, or just read a portion of the Quran, and make it a consistent time, right? If we're talking about consistency, then, every day it could be after Maghrib or when you get back from work. And it could be in the same room, same place, same time. As long as you make it as consistent as possible, it's going to help you out in the long run. Um, Set a no distractions alarm. One thing that I used to do when I was learning a couple different poems was I would set an alarm on my phone. So I would say, like, if I was at home, um, like 10 minutes where I'm just gonna learn this. I'm gonna put my phone under my pillow and I'm just gonna vibe out and learn my 10 lines and then, go to my siblings and have them test me. But it's like those 10 minutes are like sacred 10 minutes of like, I'm not gonna do anything else but read my 10 lines or learn my 10 lines or however much I can learn. And then also that goes into beware of the things that can waste your time, such as social media. I am victim to this too. Our generation, I would say, the times that we're living in today, we invest a lot of time into social media and building social personas online. And while social media can provide some benefit, there are more harms that come with social media. It kind of goes back to that. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. The bad that comes out of it outweighs any good or benefit that it has. So I would say, especially if you're someone who's studying the Quran, try to keep that at a minimum, the amount of time that you engage on social media. And that is advice for myself as well. I do spend a significant amount of time on social media, which I'm trying to cut down on. But I would say, alhamdulillah, like while I was growing up, our our Duxi was very strict on social media, and for students to dedicate their time fully and devote all of their time and their resources into learning the Quran wholeheartedly. And that's something that I appreciate now, looking back at it now that I'm older. Um, but beware of social media, because social media, um, it really takes away from the time, and it exposes you to a lot of things that can prove being detrimental to your journey, right? And then, really, that last tip for time is try to break up time in increments of 5. So, like, if you're going to learn, let's say I'm gonna learn something for 30 minutes, or I'm gonna learn for 20 minutes, right? But make sure you set that alarm, and then that's it. Your phone is off, you put it somewhere where you're not going to be able to touch it. Don't bother looking at the time. Just listen for the alarm, and then that's it. Dedicate all of your energy and your focus into whatever it is that you're learning. And then one ayah that I extracted, قال الله تعالى في كتاب الكريم أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. And this comes from Surah Isra. So establish prayer at the decline of the sun until the darkness of the night. and also the Quran of dawn. Indeed, the recitation or the Quran that's recited at Fajr time is ever witnessed. This comes from Surah Isra, which is honestly my favorite surah in the Quran, and especially the page that this verse is from is one of my favorite pages in the Quran. But yeah, after Fajr, you know, Allah, honestly, take it from me, like, even when I was a young girl, like after Fajr is just everything hits different. Your brain is fresh. Once you get past that like grogginess, once you're up and the first thing you start your day with is Quran, your whole day changes. Uh, Now, subhanAllah, I don't really, we used to, as a family, we would all split up Surah Al-Baqarah, and the whole family would, together, we'd all recite Surah Al-Baqarah, and honestly, that would change our entire day. But I remember it was for like an entire Ramadan where every single day, and I think maybe Shawwal too, where every day my dad would say, "Okay, everyone, come sit in the living room, and we're all gonna split up," and we would alternate between the hizbs. Like I would take one, my dad would take one, my brothers would take one, my sister would take one, and then we'd finish the entire Baqarah like that. We'd even get, the little one who didn't get to Baqarah yet, but he would also like, try to recite it, and but it was such a beautiful thing, right? Building family, building community through Quran. Then that last aspect is commitment. Okay. عن شداد بن أوس عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله كتب الإحسان على كل شيء. Verily Allah has prescribed excellence in everything. Right? If you're going to do something, do it in the best way possible. Yes. Are you going to feel burnt out? Of course. But always remind yourself of your goal and your purpose. Write it down somewhere. Write down your goal. If you ever feel burnt out, go back, look back at it, right? Remind yourself why you're doing this. Why are you memorizing the Quran? Why are you learning? Why are you struggling? Why are you waking up that early? Because I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward me and to be pleased with me, right? Or whatever your intention is, your sincere intention that you set in the beginning. And also, one big piece of advice: find like minded individuals who support you. If it's a teacher, if it's a classmate, if it's a group of friends, if it's family members, people who you start the journey with, who have the same aims and ambitions that you do, who have a similar intention. Well, not a similar intention, but people who you guys are in this together, right? People who you can enjoy those end of the checkpoints that we talked about, you know? People that you can enjoy those moments with, people who can understand and be happy for you and give you the encouraging words that you need when you start to feel down, people who you can call, who are there to help you out, right? I always, when I look back at my journey, I will always dedicate my happy moments or my success to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know my parents, my teacher, and honestly, my peers that I spent all those years with, that kept me going, that every single day, day in day out, the same faces, kept telling me, dude, you can do this, you got this, keep pushing, keep grinding, we're at the finish line, we're gonna get there, right? And then strive for excellence in whatever you do, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants and establish excellence in everything. Okay, so strive for that excellence. And with that is the end. I think I went a little bit over time, but feel free, if you have any questions, to DM me or DM the sisters on Journey to Al Quran. I'd like to say big Jazakallah khairan to the sisters at Journey to Al Quran for organizing this beautiful, wonderful seminar. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes the Quran the light of all of our lives, and that He blesses all of our journeys with the Quran. He makes the Quran easy for us, and that He makes the Quran one that intercedes for all of us on a day when intercession is duly needed. And may we be amongst the people who are told, when we get through the beautiful gates of paradise, to ascend and to recite the way that we used to recite in this world until we reach our final destination. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it Al-Firdaus. Allahumma ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Anything else that you guys need is on my page. I will be posting a lot more resources and everything. And with that, I would like to say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.